Have you ever noticed that English has a lot of verbs? Have you ever noticed that many of these verbs are almost the same, but mean very different things? Words like get out and get up, or give up and give away. Well, you've noticed something called phrasal verbs. Today, I'll explain a bit about the different kinds of phrasal verbs and really focus on explaining the first type. Let's get started. Before we start, do you know exactly what a phrasal verb is? Well, it's a combination of a verb and one or two particles. These particles are usually a preposition, but can also be an adverb. So here's an example of a phrasal verb. I want to give up. The game is too difficult. Give up is the phrasal verb. The normal verb give and the preposition up. These are two words, but have a meaning as if they were one word. What does give up mean? It means to quit. See, it can be a little bit confusing. So we're starting a series of videos that will explain all about the 4 different kinds of phrasal verbs. We'll also give you a great list of the most common phrasal verbs in English, with explanations of what they mean and how to use them. This is very important for you to learn because native speakers use phrasal verbs a lot in their daily speech. Let's take a look at the different types of phrasal verbs. There are 4 different kinds of phrasal verbs: transitive, intransitive, separable, and inseparable. In today's video, we'll be learning about transitive phrasal verbs. To use a transitive phrasal verb, the sentence must contain an object. So let's look at an example sentence. We'll use a different phrasal verb, turn down, which means to decline. We need a subject. How about the woman? Okay, now we need a verb. We're using turned down. Because turned down is a transitive phrasal verb, we must add an object. We cannot only say, the woman turned down. This is not correct. We must ask or say, what did the woman turn down? So let's add an object to our sentence. The woman turned down the party invitation. There, that's better. Let's look at another example. We'll use the phrasal verb bring up or brought up. Bring up means to raise a child. So again, let's choose a subject. My grandmother. Now, we add the verb brought up. Let's stop here. Can we finish this sentence now? No. Brought up is a transitive phrasal verb. That requires, what do we need to add? An object. Good job. Let's add it. My grandmother brought up my sister. There we go. Now the sentence is complete. In this video, we'll be talking about transitive phrasal verbs. I'll give you a list of some commonly used transitive phrasal verbs that will be very useful to you in your daily speaking. Let's get started. So, before we start, let's do a quick review of what a transitive phrasal verb is. To use a transitive phrasal verb, The sentence must contain an object. So, let's look at a few examples of transitive phrasal verbs and talk about how to use them correctly. The first phrasal verb we'll learn about today is use up, or use something up. Use up is a transitive phrasal verb that means to finish a supply of something. Basically, we can use this word when we are talking about something that has a limited supply, such as water, energy, or time. So let's look at some examples. If you have some water, but you use it all, resulting in no more water to use, you have used up your water. If you use all of your energy and have no more energy, you have used up your energy. See, it's easy. Let's use it in a sentence. The student used up all of his study time by playing games. Remember, this is transitive, so you must have an object. You cannot only use a subject. For example, he used up is incorrect. Remember to use an object. The second phrasal verb we'll learn about today is let down, or let somebody down. Let down is a transitive phrasal verb that means to disappoint someone, usually because you didn't do something that you were expected to do. Let's look at some examples. If you promise to help someone, but you forget, you probably let them down. If you are supposed to meet someone at 8 o'clock p.m., and you arrive at 8:45, you probably let them down. Let's use it in a sentence. I know I let you down because I was late. I'm sorry. Let down is a transitive verb, so you cannot say she let down. It requires an object. She let me down. The third phrasal verb we'll learn about today is take off. Now, this is an especially tricky word to learn. Why? Because there are so many different meanings of take off. But take something off, the transitive phrasal verb, which we are learning today, can only mean one thing: to remove something, usually clothes. We can also use it for other things that can be on your skin, such as bandages or jewelry. Let's look at some examples. If you are wearing shoes and you remove them, you take off your shoes. If you are wearing glasses and you remove them, you take off your glasses. You can say the same thing with your shirt or your ring. Let's use it in a sentence. I always take off my shoes when I get home. Remember, it's a transitive phrasal verb, so you must use an object. You cannot say, I take off, when you are talking about removing something from your skin. Pro tip, remember that when you are using phrasal verbs, you also need to conjugate them, depending on what tense you are using. Use up can become used up. Let down can become will let down or have let down. Take off can become took off or has taken off.
we're going to learn about intransitive phrasal verbs. Did you know that about 80% of all verbs in spoken English are phrasal verbs? Phrasal verbs are phrases that give verbs completely different meanings. Because of that, phrasal verbs can be quite confusing. A phrasal verb is a phrase made with a verb and another word or two. The other words added to the verb are usually prepositions, and sometimes they can be adverbs. So let's find out about verbs, prepositions, and adverbs. A verb is an action word that describes something happening, like seeing or hearing. Verbs describe state of being, like to live or to sleep. Verbs can also describe an action being done, like to sing or to read. Prepositions are words that describe the relationship between two words. A preposition is a word that tells you when or where something is in relation to something else. For example, the ball is in my hand. The ball is over my head. The ball is in the air. The ball is around. So prepositions tell you when and where something is. Some common examples of prepositions are after, before, on, under, inside, and outside. Prepositions mainly deal with location or direction. An adverb is a word that describes a verb. For example, you can walk quickly or you can walk slowly. You can arrive early or you can arrive late. There are three possible structures of a phrasal verb. Verb plus adverb. Example, get up. I don't like to get up early. Verb plus preposition. For example, the phrasal verb, talk about. Did you talk about me? The third structure is verb plus adverb plus preposition. For example, look forward to. I look forward to meeting your friends. Okay, we almost have everything we need to put together some intransitive phrasal verbs. First, let's talk about what intransitive phrasal verbs are. Intransitive phrasal verbs have no direct object. A direct object is acted upon by the verb. The subject is doing the action of the verb and nothing receives the action. You might find intransitive phrasal verbs a little easier because you don't have an object to worry about. An example of an intransitive phrasal verb used in a sentence, I woke up at 9 a.m. The phrasal verb here is the intransitive phrasal verb, woke up. As you can see in that sentence, there is no direct object. For the rest of the lesson, I will show you some phrasal verb examples and sentences. Please pay close attention to the examples because you'll notice that the examples do not have direct objects. Okay, the first intransitive phrasal verb is break down. It means to stop working. My car broke down on the way to work. Broke down is the past tense of breakdown. This sentence means my car stopped working. It broke down. Take off. Take off means to leave the ground, like an airplane. The plane took off and landed on time. Catch on. Catch on means to become popular. BTS's music has caught on very fast. Caught on is the past of catch on. This sentence means that the band BTS has become popular quite fast. Come over. Go to someone's house. You should come over to my house after school. He came over yesterday. Dress up. Dress up means to wear nice, formal clothes. We all dressed up for dinner. I will dress up for the party. The next one is drop by. That means to visit someone without an appointment. Sarah dropped by to return the money I had lent her. The next phrasal verb is eat out. This means to eat at a restaurant or cafe, not at home. Let's eat out tonight. I ate out last night. Get by. Get by means to survive with little money. I have enough money to get by this week. I was so broke that I barely got by last month. Get up. Get up means to get out of bed. I got up at 6:30 a.m. Fall through means something that was planned fails. Our plans fell through because we didn't have enough money. Pass out means to lose consciousness. I passed out after running for 5 hours. Show up means to arrive somewhere. I showed up late for school. He showed up late for his own wedding. Oh my! Remember, intransitive phrasal verbs have no direct object. A direct object is acted upon by the verb. The subject is doing the action of the verb, and nothing receives the action.
We'll be talking about transitive phrasal verbs. I'll give you a list of some commonly used transitive phrasal verbs, and these are very useful for you in your daily speaking. Let's get started. Before we start, let's do a quick review of what a transitive phrasal verb is. To use a transitive phrasal verb, the sentence must contain an object. So, let's look at a few examples of transitive phrasal verbs and talk about how to use them correctly. So, the first one that we'll be learning about today is cut out, or cut something out, and sometimes cut something out of something. And cut out is a transitive phrasal verb that means stop doing, using, or eating something. Basically, we can use this word when we're talking about something that we or someone needs to stop doing. So, let's look at some examples. If I eat junk food, but stop eating it, you have cut out junk food from your diet. If you are talking loudly and somebody asks you to be quiet, so you stop talking, you have cut it out. Now let's use it in a sentence. The doctor said I need to stop eating chocolate, so I cut it out of my diet. Remember, you must have an object. You cannot only use a subject. For example, he cut out is incorrect. Remember to use an object. Language tip. You can use cut it out as a command to tell someone something, or to tell someone to stop doing something. Okay? So if someone is doing something that you don't like, you can say, "Hey, cut it out." This means, "Hey, stop doing that." The second phrasal verb we'll learn about today is take out. Take out is a transitive phrasal verb. Now, this word can be very difficult to learn to use correctly. Why? Well, this is because there are many different meanings and ways to use take out. Take out can mean to go to a restaurant, a theater, club, with somebody that you have invited. Or it can mean to kill somebody or destroy something. Or it can mean to remove something from inside an object or a person. I know it's confusing, so let's listen to a quick explanation. To understand how to use take out, we need to use context clues. Okay? So this means that you need to understand the situation of the conversation. Okay? You should ask questions like, who is talking? And what are they talking about? If a father and a son are talking, and the father asks if he can take the son out, he probably means to go to a restaurant. But if two soldiers are talking, and one asks if he can take somebody out, they probably mean to kill or destroy someone or something. Take something out means to remove something from inside an object or a person. Okay? Take something out. Not somebody, something. So if you remove an object from your bag, you take it out. Or if a dentist pulls a tooth out of your mouth, they take it out. Let's use them in a sentence. I want to take my wife out tonight. Or, the doctor took the splinter out of my finger. Take out is a transitive verb. So, you cannot say, she took out. It requires an object. She took it out. Okay. The third phrasal verb we'll learn about today is come up with. It means to find or produce an answer, or sometimes a sum of money. This phrasal verb is always followed by something. So it's come up with something. Usually, or it's always an object because this is a transitive phrasal verb. Let's look at some examples. If you think of a good idea, you came up with a good idea. If you owe someone some money and you get the money and pay them, you come up with the money. Now let's use it in a sentence. I came up with a really good idea in class, so the teacher gave me a good score. Remember, it's a transitive phrasal verb, so you must use an object. You cannot say, I came up, when you are talking about producing a good idea. So today we are going to be learning about separable and inseparable phrasal verbs. Okay? But before we get started talking about the differences between these two types of phrasal verb, let's do a little review about just phrasal verbs themselves. A phrasal verb is a verb and a preposition together, sometimes an adverb, or both, that when you put them together, they mean something different than the two words that make up the verb, okay? So, for example, take off. Take off, it means something different than the word take, right? Take off can mean many things, but usually to take something off, like take my ring off. Give up, right, to quit, or use up. So let's go ahead and talk about what a separable phrasal verb is. So you might be asking the question, right, what is a separable phrasal verb? Well, separable phrasal verb it means that the two words in the phrasal verb can be separated, and a word can be inserted between the two words. the object. Okay, you can put the object in between the two words of the phrasal verb. So, for example, here we have a sentence that uses a phrasal verb, and it just says, I took off my shoes. Took off is the phrasal verb. Okay, separate the phrasal verb. I took my shoes off. And a language tip, you can remember that the object can be switched with an objective pronoun. Okay? Do you remember what a pronoun is? Well, again, let's look at this sentence. Okay? I took my shoes off. Okay? My shoes is the object. You can change it to I took them off. And that's okay. Just a reminder, before we talk about inseparable phrasal verbs, to subscribe and like. Okay, don't forget. All right, so now let's move on to talking about inseparable phrasal verbs. So, what is an inseparable phrasal verb? Well, it means that the two words in the phrasal verb cannot be separated. So, you can have the object for the verb, but you cannot put the object between the words. Okay? So, they must stay together. You cannot separate them. All right, so for example, here we have another sentence. I look after my younger brother. Okay? And the phrasal verb here is look after, and the object is my younger brother. Can we separate the phrasal verb? No, we cannot. Okay, I look my younger brother after is incorrect. Okay, we cannot separate them. We're going to be talking about separable and inseparable phrasal verbs. So the last video that we did in this series, we talked about what a separable or inseparable phrasal verb is. Well, in today's video, we're going to be talking about examples of each kind of phrasal verb. So you'll see a list of vocabulary and the definitions and things like that. So before we really get into looking up a list of words, let's quickly review what is a separable phrasal verb. Okay, we'll talk about separable phrasal verbs first. Well, a separable phrasal verb is when the two words in the phrasal verb can be separated, and a word, usually the object, can be inserted between the two words in the phrasal verb. Okay, so for example, I took off my shoes. Okay, you can separate the phrasal verb, which is took off. I took my shoes off. Okay, so we separated those words. So let's look at some examples. Okay, so the first example we have is bring up, to raise children, or to raise a topic, usually in a conversation, okay, or sometimes in a class or something like that. Call back, to return someone's phone call. Call off means to cancel something. Clean up, to clean something. Cheer up, to make someone happy, usually if they are sad first. Cut out, to remove something, or to stop doing something as well. Okay. Drop off, to leave something or someone somewhere. Figure out, to understand something, or to find the answer to a problem. Fill out, to complete a form. Give back is to return something. Give up, to quit. Probably you know this one. Hand in, to give an assignment or a project to a teacher. Kick out, to force someone to leave. Look over, to review something. And look up, to find information. All right, if you haven't already, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, okay? It really helps out our channel. And if you help us, then we can continue to make a lot of interesting and fun videos about learning English. Okay, so now we're going to move into inseparable phrasal verbs. So very quickly, let's review. An inseparable phrasal verb means that the two words can't be separated. They cannot. So you can have an object, but you cannot put the object between the two words. Okay? So for example, I look after my younger brother. Can we separate the phrasal verb? No, we cannot. Okay, I look my younger brother after it's incorrect. Okay? So now let's look at our list of inseparable phrasal verbs. Okay, I hope you find this very helpful. Okay, check in or check into means register at a hotel or a travel counter. Check out or check out of means to leave a hotel. Okay, so we have check in and check out. Come across means to find. Drop by or drop in means to visit unexpectedly. Drop out means to stop attending a class. Remember, these are inseparable, so they must stay together. Get along with means to have a good relationship with. Get in, to enter. Get off means to leave a bus, a train, or an airplane. And get on means to enter a bus, a train, or airplane. Go over, to review. Grow up means to become an adult. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for watching.